Hello, and welcome to Girls, Gays, Animes, where it is safe to love what you love and love who you love. I am your host, Valsaraptor, and I love when I come home from a long vacation and my dogs think that I died by the way that they greet me with so much excitement and butt wiggles and kisses.
I'm T, and I love taking a nap on a summer afternoon with the window open right next to you.
Yes.
Getting that cross breeze going.
I love a good cross breeze.
Cross breeze! What are we talking about today, Val?
Yeah, so for the folks that are joining us today, our topic is Otaku 101. So we're deep into our podcast, a heavy 7 or 8 episodes, and we're finally like, you know what? Let's do an intro. Let's talk about some of the vocab we use so that people know what the fuck we're saying. So welcome to Otaku 101. So some of the things that we're going to talk about, just so that everyone can kind of like dial in and know what to expect, we're going to talk about the differences between Japanese, Korean, and Chinese media. Very high level stuff. We're going to do general otaku vocab. So some of the things where you may hear something or see something in an anime or manga, and you don't know what that means, but it's something that's pretty frequently said. We're going to talk about some BL vocab, because that is a heavy point of discussion on our podcast and on our channels and all the different medias that we post on. And then we're also going to dabble in Omegaverse, and that's going to be really fun. I'm going to try not to throw up. Because I learned some things, T, as I was preparing my notes for this presentation, and I don't know if you or the listeners are ready to really hear about the details that I learned about Omegaverse.
You know, the last time that we talked about Omegaverse with Mim, I learned quite a few things that I wasn't aware of before, so I'll just add that to the repertoire going on in my brain.
I am so sorry we'll save maybe that for last so that people can hop off if they are so inclined.
If you need a palate cleanse beforehand, we'll talk about something else.
Yeah, so I guess jumping right in, the first couple of words that we want to talk about are super basic. It's otaku, manga, and anime. So, T, would you consider yourself to be an otaku?
You know, I feel like the term has changed over time. When I was like 13, 14, it was an insult.
Yes.
Like, oh, you're an otaku, you're one of those people. Anime fans would call other anime fans otaku as an insult.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's grown its own legs and come into its own at this point, like years down the road, where I would say, yeah, I'm an otaku. I'm not one of those. I'm not the old version of the otakus. I'm the modern version of
I'm
the
not
otaku.
like old otakus. I'm a cool otaku.
I'm not like other girls. I'm a cool girl. I like anime and video games, you know? But yeah, I definitely would say I'm an otaku. What about you?
Yeah, I joke all the time about being, because my friends know me from college anyway, more as like just like a general nerd. And I think you were there where my college buddy was like, oh, Val was never nerdy before. And I was like, well, I was nerdy, and now I'm more like of an otaku and more of a weeb than just like a general nerd. And so I think that is like a point of distinction to make.
Yeah.
Where, you know, it's like a Venn diagram where there's some overlap, but they can also be their own bubble thing.
Yeah, exactly. And when you brought up weeb just now, I feel like I remember back, like I said, when I was 14, whatever, otaku was a bad word.
Yeah.
Weeb was worse.
Yeah.
If somebody called you a weeb, you were worse than an otaku. You were trash. And now, like, people throw it around all the time and nobody cares that I'm aware of. I mean, in my circle of friends, I don't hear anybody getting mad if you call them a weeb. But same thing.
No, and so super high level to catch everyone up that's listening. So we talked about otaku, and otaku is a Japanese term for people obsessed with anime, manga, like those sorts of media types. And that's to the extent that maybe they're collecting items from their favorite animes or mangas, or they might have posters. Like it's borderline, like when they say obsessed, it's really, I don't want to say, I'm trying to think of another word for obsessive, but it's along those lines. And then we say manga and anime. I hope that if you find our channel, you might know what they are, but if you don't, great, welcome to the channel. Manga is a Japanese comic, typically read from back to front, left to right. There's usually instructions if you open it the wrong way. It's like, oops, by the way, you're doing this wrong, try it this way. And then anime is a Japanese abbreviation for animation, usually adapted from mangas. And so when we talk about otakus, they're people who are obsessed with those types of medias. When we talk about weeb, that's another sort of previously derogatory term.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And it's funny because one of my favorite shirts that I got at round 1, it's like an athletic-y style shirt, and I should have worn it today, and I didn't. It looks like a gym shirt, and you know, like the old style gym shirts where it says the school that you go to on it, and then it has like maybe a circle, and it's whatever. It says Weeb Dumpster School on it, and it is my favorite round 1 shirt that I've ever gotten.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, so just to confirm that I'm not being stupid, a weeb is short for weeaboo, and it typically refers to a non-Japanese person who is overly obsessed with Japanese culture, anime, things like that. But, and I mean, if you look at it from that lens, yeah, that's an insult. But as we said, the community has kind of changed the definition of the word.
We have embraced it.
You have a shirt that says it on it and you wear it proudly. Like,
I do.
It's definitely not a bad one anymore. It could be, I guess.
Yeah, but if someone were to call me a weeb, even in a mean way, I'd be like, thank you so much.
Thank you for acknowledging. Real recognizes real.
So glad you noticed. Oh, how? Please tell me.
You must also be a weeb if you noticed my culture.
Well, that's how I feel about my tattoos, right? Because some of them are, like, pretty niche, and then some are not so much. Yeah. But if someone noticed, I'm like, yes, class notice class. Like, the girls that get it. The girls that don't.
When we first met, that was actually the first thing I saw. I specifically remember walking into Mim's house and everyone was saying, hi, and I was looking at everybody, and I looked up and I saw you on the 2nd floor, and I saw the weeb tats, and I was like, I'm gonna be friends with that one.
Love at first sight.
We were meant to be.
And look at us now. Truly. So, off of that, so we're self-proclaimed weebs, otakus. Another aspect of reading manga and watching anime, I almost said reading anime, is there's a lot of language that's used in it repetitively, and then there's also lots of like groupings of folks and the way that they're categorized. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is the duraes. There's a lot of different duraes, and so dure comes from the term dare. I'm saying that right?
I think so.
Yeah. So it means something like love struck or lovey-dovey. So the duraes you'll see very commonly in romance or slice of life even sometimes. And so it refers to the love and crush archetypes of different anime characters. So there's a lot, but there's 4 main ones. Yeah. So there's tsundere, yandere, dandere, and kudere.
Yeah.
So I found a little quizzy quiz online, and I took it, and it says that I'm a dandere, which means that I'm gonna read from my little notes down here because I don't want to mess it up, right? So, because I myself am no expert, I researched a lot of notes to be able to educate myself and then share the word with others, share the gospel.
Preach!
So, dandere is a type of character who is quiet and reserved. They usually come out of their shell and show their cute side when alone with their love interest. So, honestly, I feel like I wish I could have looked at where I ranked in my results, because I feel like there was a couple where I'm like, I could have gone one way or the other, and if I would have changed an answer, where would it have landed me? But kudere is a type of character who is always cool, calm, and collected. They show little or no emotions and only open themselves to their closest friends. A yandere is a type of character who is initially loving and caring to someone they like a lot, until their romantic feelings make them destructive in nature through their overprotectiveness or violence.
Have you seen the game Yandere Simulator?
No.
So you
Tell me more.
You are the yandere, and you had it's been a minute since I've seen people play this, but you have a love interest, and you are eliminating the competition, and you yandere it up at school. It was pretty fun to watch people play that.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna have to get with our other. So for our spinoff that we're gonna be starting maybe later this year, early next year, Girls Games animes. So we'll get with our co-host to maybe do a playthrough of that, because that sounds fun.
Oh yeah, that'd be funny.
But the last dure that I have is tsundere, which is a type of character who's initially cold and sometimes even hostile before gradually showing warmer, friendlier side over time. So it's like hard on the outside, mushy on the inside.
So like a Cadbury egg?
Yeah, the Cadbury egg of romance.
Well, I do love a Cadbury cream egg.
So, thinking of like, examples of tsunderes, yanderes, whatever, if anyone's seen My Hero, Himiko is a yandere. So she's obsessive, but in a violent way. Most of the things that I watch, though, are more tsundere style. So if you watch Toradora, the main character from Toradora is a tsundere, so like kind of punky, but is actually a little softy, wants romance, blah, blah, blah.
I love tsundere boys and like that genre. I feel like they're not as represented as much.
Really?
Or like not represented, not like it's not pointed out as much that they're being a tsundere.
You're right. Most of the dures fall on categorizing female love interest, but you're right. There is, like, if you look at Kyo from Fruits Basket.
Exactly.
He is
one of my all-time favorite characters.
I knew you were going immediately.
100.
Yeah.
Yep. Kyo-sama, Edward Elric, tsunderes.
But as far as tsunderes go, I think they're the most prevalent because if you look at Kami-sama Kiss, I feel like she's a little punchy, but is a romantic. Maid-sama, big tsundere energy there. I have a couple mangas that I'm reading, and I think I saw them on your shelf too. I might be wrong, but Cheeky Brat.
Oh, what? I saw that at the library.
Okay. Yeah. That one is tsundere vibes. And then, I don't know, there's so many. There's too many to list, but...
The example one is perfect. Toradora.
Yeah.
Love Toradora. Excellent representation there.
Super cute. If you guys haven't watched Toradora, I think it might be on Netflix, actually.
I don't remember.
I think I watched it on Netflix.
I think I watched it on Crunchyroll, but that was like...
the way God intended. Yeah. Okay.
So where's this quiz? Because I put what I thought I was, and then you mentioned there was a quiz for me to take. So
yes.
I could doodly do that.
We're doodly doing the quiz live. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Tia... I already did the quiz, and it said that I was a dandere, which I feel like maybe my responses could have been up in the air, but I'm going to take it. It's fine. It just means that I'm a little quiet, but I like little forehead kisses and stuff. I'm going to have T take the quiz now. She's going to read us the questions and then read some of the answer options. It's like a multiple choice, and then we'll also include the link when we post the video wherever we post it too. So if anyone is interested in what type of dure they are, they can figure it out.
So I'm going to have to... I don't know how to answer these because I'm trying to think, like, am I going from, like, who I was before I was married? Like, I'm looking at this as a crush, or am I looking at this as my spouse?
I took it as, like, while you were dating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whew, we thrown it way back. All right, here we go. Question number 1.
Yeah.
I feel like I need, like, fancy music in the background. Your crush is sitting on a bench all alone. What do you do now? Ignorantly pass by? Ignorantly... Why is everything ignorant?
Dumb.
Ignorantly sit near them, change my path and go away, or make fun of them.
Which are you picking? I'll tell you which one I think I picked. I don't remember.
I was a little shy butterbean
Mm-hmm.
and did not know how to express my emotions. I don't feel like the ignorant ones are what I was going for. I think the change my path and go away.
Okay. I picked make fun of. Which is why I was like very surprised when I got Dandere. I was like interesting because I feel like a lot of my answers would not have actually led me there, but I think it was one of those things where it was like, 5 versus 4 points, and I just fell into the other category. But okay, so
Why is this?
You're taking another path away from your crush, and I'm mocking them relentlessly.
That's weird. Okay. Sorry, it did something weird when I went to answer the question.
Okay.
All right, question number 2. Some random boy/girl is flirting with your crush. What is your reaction?
How dare they?
A, make fun of the girl. B, ignore both. C, cry. Or D, plan revenge.
I think I picked cry.
Yeah, that's honestly,
I would like try to ignore them, but just cry.
Yeah, I would ignore them while crying.
Yes.
Crying would be the predominant reaction.
Yes.
So which of the following scenarios sounds like something you do with your crush? A, mess with him/her. B, leave them on red. C, do his or her homework. D, make them feel miserable. I wouldn't do any of those things.
I put that I would do their homework. It's like some elite form of flirting where I'm like, I can help you and I'm smart. Please like me.
Yeah, like, I mean, see, my problem is I am married to the person I was dating at 16,
Right.
and we are both smart people.
Mm-hmm.
I would not do his homework. I frequently mess with husband, though. I will not lie about that. So, next. I said mess with.
Yeah. That was my,
Question
I think I
number-
went with, I think I did pick do homework, but mess with was like a strong contender.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, number 4 out of 20. Which one sounds like a cool plan for a date night with you and your lover? A. Dinner at a fancy place. B. Something adrenaline boosting. C. Chilling and Netflixing while hugging. Or D. A BDSM night? Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we frequently see chill and Netflix. We also go to like a dinner, like a nice dinner.
And you
but that's
also
like,
do your BDSM nights, and then you also do
yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody's got to keep fresh, you know? But we're both very homebody people.
Yeah.
If I don't have to leave my house, I won't. And I will for like good food.
Right.
I'm usually in my house.
I put adrenaline. My favorite, sidetrack, my favorite part of the Disneyland experience that I got in Japan was riding the Space Rangers ride, the Buzz Lightyear one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because Buzz Lightyear's like standing there doing his Buzz Lightyear thing, but it's in full-on Japanese. So then when we went back to Disney World here, we went on the same ride, and I was like, Buzz Lightyear doesn't speak English, he speaks Japanese! What the heck is this?
So, another slight tangent. I saw a YouTuber who I follow online, and she lives in Japan, and she went to Tokyo Disney, and she went to the Baymax ride. And apparently, there's like this cult following of people that like do the little dance and sing the songs the whole time. It's so cute.
They're so cute. I was waiting in line for a popcorn bucket, as one does in Disney Japan, because the popcorn buckets are elite there. And
Yeah,
as I'm
they're
standing in line,
immaculate.
I am just watching the Baymax ride, and I'm watching everyone dance, and I'm just like, fascinating. And I'm like, trying to like,
I want to be where the people are.
yes, that was me. But I was where the popcorn buckets were, and I got a really dope I got so many dope popcorn buckets while I was in Japan. We got this cool Beauty and the Beast one that actually like has a light that makes it look like there's like a carousel of spinning lights. And then when I went to Universal, I got a Gojo popcorn bucket.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, anyway, back to the topic at
Yeah,
hand.
question
We should do
number
a whole episode
4.
on complete the following sentence. When I see my crush, excuse me, I have to burp. When I see my crush, I burp.
When I see my crush, I have burp in his face.
Uncontrollably. All right, A. When I see my crush, I turn my head. B. When I see my crush, I play with my phone. C. When I see my crush, I talk to my friends. Or D. When I see my crush, I stare at them. I don't know. I feel like
I think I put
I
either stare at my phone or I stare at them, because I tried to think back. And in high school, I didn't have a phone. So there was no, like, staring at the phone. So I think I stared at them in the kind of way where it's like you look at someone, and then when they look at you, like, look away and pretend you weren't looking at them.
Yeah, so I would say that, but I would also like I would talk to my friends and be like, "Hey girl, where is he? Do you see him? What's he doing?" I'm going to go with talk to my friends. I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
Question number 6. Your love interest is always blank to / of you. Okay, this is going to make sense when I fill in the blank.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Your love interest is always A, cruel to you. Your love interest is always B, nice to you. Your love interest is always C, ignorant of you. Or D, your love interest is always scared of you.
I put scared.
I was going to say, back in the ye old days, definitely nice. Husband was very nice to me always, and still is.
Romance.
But I would like to state that he has grown afraid of me as time has gone on.
As it should
There is a
be.
fear factor.
As it should be.
So I'm going to go with nice. My
Okay.
husband is very nice to me. What would you do if your crush rejected you? Cry until I throw up. Is that an option?
I think so. I think that's one I picked.
A, flip them the bird. B, move on. It should be move on, as nothing has happened. C, cry alone. Or D, make them regret it. I'm crying, baby.
I'm crying.
She feels her emotions.
When you said move on, I thought you were going to say move to another country.
That's what I thought, because there's a typo, and instead of saying move on, it said move one, and I was like, oh, move one country over. Yeah, of course.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes you feel loved the most? A, receiving gifts. B, hearing nice things about me. C, being hugged and kissed. D, having full control over someone. I can tell which one are the yandere answers.
Right.
I mean, I like to get things. I like to hear nice things about me, but I'm very, like, I'm physical in the sense that I, like, when we go to sleep, all I have to do is put my hand on his back and I could go to sleep, because I just need, like, some level of physical.
Yes, absolutely agree.
Touching.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with C.
Me and Maslin, we like to touch butts. We sleep butt to butt.
Yeah. Which one sounds like a romantic gift idea? A, something expensive. B, something rare. C, something handmade. Or D, none.
I honestly didn't want any of those things.
So I'm going to say handmade, because husband has made me some really, like, cool things. He's bought me cool things. But, so our song is Such Great Heights by the Postal Service. And he took a piece of wood and got the sound waves of the song and burned it into the wood.
Aww,
yeah, so I have that.
I can't remember if I put none or rare, because in my mind I'm like, rare items could be like signed or autographed things that are like not easily purchased sort of stuff, because that's kind of stuff that I would get from my husband.
We halfway done.
Whoop, whoop.
Would you blank your partner in your first anniversary?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Would you kiss your partner in your first anniversary? Would you hug your partner in your first anniversary?
Ew.
Would you hold hands with your partner in your first anniversary?
That's where I draw the line.
Or, yeah, how can you hold hands before marriage? Get with it, people. Or D, would you pull a prank on your partner in your first anniversary? So the way it's worded, would you blank your partner in your first anniversary? Like, is that within the year, or is that, like, the day of?
Would you not hold their hand and hug them within the first year or at the first year mark? Is it going to change your answer to
right? No, but I was confused. I'll put kiss, I guess, because, I mean, if you've held hands, you've probably hugged and you've probably kissed, so I'm going to advance all the way to kiss.
Wow.
I know, right? How could I?
Wow. Tia the Homewrecker is also kissing in the first year. Wow.
I know, what's wrong with me? Yeah. What is a huge turnoff for you? Crybabies, lovey-dovey stuff, disrespect and cruelty, or cowardness? Disrespect and cruelty. I am a sensitive baby and I cry very easily.
I also put disrespect. Yep.
We got 6 left. What kind of person would you never date? A, someone who is ignorant. B, someone who is selfish. C, someone who is unkind and mean. Or D, someone who is polite.
I'm going to be honest, I put selfish here because people can be, like, in my mind, mean. You can be playful. You can't be...
Yeah.
When I hear selfish, I'm like, no, that's who they are.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to put selfish.
Yeah.
Choose a word that describes you better. A, a queen. B, a king. C, a cutie. D, a god. I'm cutie.
I think I put queen.
That fits.
I wanted to put cutie, but then I was like, I am a Leo. I am at least a queen.
That's fair. Have you ever confessed your feelings to someone? Yes. I would not be married otherwise. The other options were A, no. B, kind of. C, yes. Or D, never.
Never.
What would you do if your crush texted you a flirting message? A, block them. B, ignore the text. C, call my friends and ask for help. Or D, humiliate them. I'm calling my friends because...
I'm calling the police. I'm just kidding.
911, what's your emergency? He said dirty words to me.
Help, I don't know what to respond with.
Say it back. Ma'am, did you call the right line? I'm saying call my friends because back in the ye olde days, I'm going to even say it now, I probably don't flirt right. I need directions.
Sometimes you have to seek advice from the council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you ever want to marry your lover? Yes. Already did that.
No, we only hold hands.
We only hold hands. And number 20. Just a random and nonsense question. What's wrong with people? A, they're fake. B, people are miserable. C, nothing is wrong with them. D, they are dumbass.
They are dumbass.
Verbatim, it says they are dumbass.
I think I put the second. What was the second one you said?
People are miserable.
I think I put that.
That's fair. That's what I'm putting. I got the same one.
Yeah.
Dandere.
So take quiz. Find out which one yours. So we went over the dures, and those, like I said, are pretty common in romance, manga, romance, animes.
And I feel like it shows up in general in anime, like, even if it's not romance focused.
That's true.
You have those.
There might be, like, side characters. Yeah, because, like, in Mashal, I think that there's one.
Yeah, and I mean, like you just said, in My Hero, that's not a romance.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Girl.
Yeah, she wants his blood. She wants the blood.
Just a little vial on your neck.
Yeah. So up next in our Otaku 101, I want to arm our listeners. I don't know why I said arm that way, but I rolled with it. I want to arm our listeners with the way to answer what type of manga or anime do you like? And it's totally fine to say, I like romance. I like slice of life. But if someone responds to you and says, oh, I like shonen or I like shoujo, you might want to know what they're saying so that you can be like, oh, I also like that too. Or that's not really my style. Have you tried this other thing? So I really want to prep people with that knowledge.
That's not really my style. Have you tried not being wrong?
That's basically how I respond when people don't like what I like. Have you tried not sucking?
Can you try harder?
Right. So the first one up is maybe a little more niche, and you probably won't hear this one a lot, is doujinshi. And that one, think of that one kind of as fanfic. So, but the fanfic could be like manga, anime, or even a video game, like kind of spin-off. It's fan-made.
Yeah. And I know in Japan they have like whole stores dedicated to that. But, like, if you have a favorite artist on Instagram or something and they put out a zine that has, like, basically, like, I know I follow a couple people. I really like The Legend of Zelda. I follow a couple people who have put out, like, short comics of that. That technically would fall under this category.
Right. So you might like this and not even realize it. But now you know.
Yeah.
The more you know. Then there's shonen. So anyone who's heard of the Shonen Jump app, or just, I guess, Shonen Jump as a publisher, would be familiar with shonen as a grouping. So shonen's going to be anime or manga marketed towards 10 to 18-year-old males.
Yeah, like, think of the big three. Those are
Fruits
shonen.
Basket, Kami-sama Kiss, and Around High School Host Club. Those big three?
Yeah. Yeah, like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
One Piece.
Sailor Moon.
Yeah. Is Bleach the third one?
I honestly have no idea.
I always forget what the last one is. And I feel bad because I feel like it's something I should know, but I am 70% sure it's Bleach.
That sounds right.
I'm probably wrong, and I'm going to own up to being probably wrong.
But yeah, so that's shonen, so think My Hero, Naruto, Demon Slayer, that kind of stuff. Jumping off of shonen, there's seinen. So where shonen is meant for 10 to 18-year-old dudes, seinen is meant for, or target, I want to say meant for, it is targeted towards 18 to 40-year-old dudes. So stuff like One Punch Man. The difference is there might be a little bit more fan service. Fan service being, how do I explain fan service without just saying titties?
Typically when you think of fan service, you think of like panty shots and stuff like that.
But it might just be like a character who's well endowed for no reason.
Yeah.
So
stuff that is pleasing to the
eye candy.
Eye candy. Eye candy.
Yeah, so it might have a little more eye candy. So that kind of covers the dudes. So then there's shoujo and josei. So shoujo's literally girl in Japanese. Typically, it's the female or girl equivalent of shonen, so meant for teenage girls. This is kind of what we're talking about. I know I joked earlier about the big three, including Sailor Moon, but Sailor Moon would be a shoujo. So would Kami-sama Kiss. We kind of talked about that one a little bit earlier. It's usually going to have a female lead, and there is usually Not always like some sort of supernatural aspect to it.
Yeah,
Doesn't
so like
have
magical
to.
girl
Yeah.
kind of things. And like you said, doesn't have to, but that tends to fit into that category.
And then josei is the seinen equivalent, where it's, younger women, so 18 to 40 is kind of the range that's stated as the target. May turn graphic, so we're going to talk about some BL and some other stuff later. Those may get a little more graphic. Like we talked about eye candy, something kind of along those lines. But I was reading that technically Princess Jellyfish and High School Life of a Fudanshi are technically josei. So,
okay. I love Princess Jellyfish.
I love High School Life of a Fudanshi, so.
There we go. We're covering the bases for everyone.
Yeah, there we go. So speaking of Fudanshi, I'm going to skip ahead. So when we talk about the manga High School Life of a Fudanshi, what does that mean? There's two types of media. There's that are LGBTQ prevalent, I would say, that have their own category name. I won't say that there's only two. These are just the two that have specific names that are used pretty frequently.
Prevalent,
Right. So there's yaoi and yuri. So yaoi's going to be BL, aka boy love, aka MLM, aka men loving men. And then
multi-level marketing scheme.
I'm really into MLM. Girl boss.
I'm gonna open up my own origami owl, and what was that? The leggings, Lululemon or
LuLaRoe.
LuLaRoe. That's it.
Yeah,
that was a time.
Wild. Then, so Yuri is the GL, girl love, women love women equivalent of, like, it's the counterpart to it. So, yaoi and yuri. Yaoi being boys loving boys, yuri being girls loving girls. So, the reason that we segued into this conversation from Fudanshi is because there's more terminology. So, there's folks there are otakus who are specifically obsessed, air quotes, in yaoi or yuri media. So,
yeah, it's like a subgenre of being an otaku.
Yes, exactly. So, Fudanshis and Fujoshis are folks that are into boy love, and Himijoshis and Himidanshis are into girl love. Fudanshi translates to something along the lines of rotten older brother.
Interesting.
But is a guy who is into BL. And then Fujoshi translates loosely to rotten girl. And it's a lady who's into BL. The other ones are kind of interesting because Himijoshis and Himidanshis are translating to princess boy and princess girl, and it's just a lady or a guy who's into GL. So
those sound like the translation of those two is less abrasive than rotten.
Yeah, but I embrace it. I've got a cup and it's like just says Fujoshi on it. I'm like, that's my cup. I drink out of that cup.
It is what it is.
It's my rotten girl juice.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. We do not have a Patreon yet.
So those are the genres of LGBTQ media that have specific names and the associated fan names for those folks that like that media. Then there's other vocab. So those are kind of the vocabs that you'll encounter when you're reading or potentially talking to someone. If you're watching something that isn't translated to your native language, you'll probably hear some of these. So like kawaii, which means cute. I heard this all over Japan. Like, this is a standard part of the Japanese vocabulary that I heard constantly. I do want to note that there's kawaii and then there's kawaii. Kawaii is cute. Kawaii is scary.
And those do, like, if you're not paying attention, you can easily slip that up.
Yes. So if you are trying to be kawaii and you accidentally say kawaii, it could be confusing.
Yeah. That was... I'm both. I am creepy cute, so it worked.
Kawaii kawaii.
If you were around when Gwen Stefani was, I would say, at her peak of her career and making poor choices about others' cultures, you would
heavy
remember
appropriation.
Heavy appropriation. She had the Harajuku girls, that whole era, I guess you could call it. She had the kawaii. I also remember Avril Lavigne having I have
a fuzzy
Hello Kitty. She had the song Hello Kitty, but apparently, from what I understand, that is super popular. Like, or not Hello Kitty, the boyfriend song is super popular in like a bunch of different countries.
Interesting.
Like, she recorded that herself in
Oh.
various languages. But I remember she also had the Hello Kitty song, and I don't remember how people felt about that one. I specifically remember Gwen Stefani because even at the young age that I was, I remember seeing that and I was like, that doesn't look okay.
Yeah, so for anyone who isn't familiar with that period of time or what we're kind of talking about, there is a musical artist, because I know we've got some listeners in other countries. If you're not familiar with Gwen Stefani, is a musical artist in the early 90s, mid 90s maybe.
She was in a band, No Doubt is the
Yes.
name of the band. And then she moved on from No Doubt to her own solo career in the early 2000s. And I would say I specifically remember they used to play Great Escape, one of the songs that she sung, when I was either a junior or a senior. They would play it on our morning announcements. So that was like 2000, yeah, that was like 2007, 2008
Okay.
when that came out.
Yeah.
So I was,
Okay, so
yeah, like
maybe
I said,
late
I was in high school.
so maybe late 90s, early 2000s, but there was a point in time during Gwen Stefani's solo career where she had 4 Asian women
Yep.
follow her around and just do whatever she wanted and dress however she specifically said. They were American Japanese, so their family was just Japanese, or I think maybe even some of them weren't even Japanese, they were just maybe Chinese. But they were specifically not allowed to speak English when they were out in public. They had very strict rules, very strict dress code. They had to do their makeup in, I would say, like a more traditional way, but not in a way that Japanese people do makeup even then, right? It was just all very weird and
It was very, very
dark
weird.
times. It was
Anyway.
kawaii, not kawaii, like she intended.
Yeah.
Circling back to the vocab.
Hard, agree. Anyway, we talked about those two. What's next?
Yeah, so some other things that you might hear. So when we talk about manga, the authors of mangas, the artists for mangas, is called mangaka. So you may, if you're talking about a manga, someone might be like, oh, I love that mangaka. They love that manga artist. Some other pieces of vocab related to media are going to be chibi. So this one's going to be a character drawn smaller. Like their proportions are made small, so they've got like shorter legs. They have hands, but maybe not fingers drawn. And then their head is like 3 times the size that it should be. It's made chibi. It's derived from a Japanese slang word for short and small, which I think pretty self-explanatory, right? But the characters are maybe a little chunky with oversized heads, stubbly limbs, very minimal detail on those characters, and they're just cute, and they're supposed to be cartoony and cute, and that's chibi or chibi.
That's also used specifically thinking of the Sailor Moon fandom. Sailor Moon, her daughter, is referred to as Chibiusa, which is just small Usagi.
Yeah.
And then later on in the series, there is Chibi Chibi, who shows up, and she is small.
That's literal translation for you, right?
And she is quite small.
The other two, deviating from cute, are a little on the less cute side. The other 2 words that I wanted to cover were ecchi and hentai. Those 2...
They're necessary to cover.
They are, and they go together. They're partners in crime. Yeah. So ecchi would be something that could be described as pornographic, right? So it could be used to describe an anime or a manga with sexual themes and lots of fan service. So we talked about fan service earlier as eye candy sort of thing, but lots of fan service.
If we're talking about in terms of bases, they don't really go to third base in ecchi. You don't see it.
Yeah.
But like you said, a lot of fan service, a lot of heavily implied things. Whereas with hentai, the next one, that's where they go to home plate.
Yeah, so ecchi, there might be some naked scenes and some heavy implications that stuff is happening, like noises under the sheets, where hentai is very explicit and literal pornography.
Yeah.
There's a difference there. So if someone's like, oh, you like hentai, when you think of hentai, it could just be like a normal relationship between folks, but it could also be like tentacle porn or stuff that gets to be a little more, I wanted to say ecchi because I feel like that's a word where you can usually describe, like, it can be used multiple ways, right? That's ecchi and hentai.
Now you know if you didn't.
Now you know. Along the lines of something being ecchi and or hentai, but not necessarily having to be, you may find in BLs, GLs, the concept of the Omegaverse.
Are you going to be able to put this graphic on YouTube? Are you going to have to blur that?
I have graphics folks at home for my own knowledge and well-being and ease of explaining, but I cannot share with the class. These are just my own notes. I will not be posting these. I'm so sorry. T, I'm gonna what do you know about the Omegaverse? We'll start there.
I have a limited, I would say like an elementary level understanding of Omegaverse. It is something that it's been around my spheres that I exist in, and after talking to Mim, I understood it better.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I would say I got a PhD in.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna take maybe your elementary education up to maybe a middle school or high school level. I feel like I
love learning.
I feel like I personally have a PhD now, and it is not something that I wanted. Omegaverse.
To be fair, there is a new anime that came out that I've been meaning to watch, and it's set in Omegaverse.
Yes, but it's super...
So, it seems really wholesome.
It is. It is a wholesome Omegaverse. Those are hard to find. It is on my list. I plan on watching it. I'm very excited about it.
I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's got, like, two guys who are married, and they have a little, like, toddler that is theirs, and it's just, like, their daily life together. It seems really cute.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. But, so that may be some spoilers here on as we jump into Omegaverse, but as you mentioned, the two guys, they have a son together. So in Omegaverse, it kind of scrambles up the genders. And scramble is a joke that you're going to get later because it kind of references eggs, and it does affect where ovaries are located. So that was a niche joke that only I got. That was for me. So in the Omegaverse, it's primarily BL, but not limited. But genders are classified as alpha, beta, omega, which means that a male or a female, someone born as male or born as female, could be an alpha, beta, or an omega, meaning there are 6 gender types. So alpha male, alpha female, beta female, omega female. Because we talked about how those two have a son. In the Omegaverse, alpha males, alpha females, and beta males are ones that can impregnate. They have the ability to create sperm and transfer that sperm to willing parties. Beta females, omega males, and omega females are all able to give birth.
Okay.
So when we look at the anatomy of an alpha female, they have testes basically where their ovaries would be, and the reproductive system functions similar to that of birds and large reptiles. Think cloaca.
Okay, so alpha females only would have a testicle-like system.
Without getting into too much detail, there's a retractable clitoris.
Okay, so they can make the baby, but they would not carry the baby?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. They do not have ovaries.
Okay.
Where alpha male reproductive system is very similar to like a standard male reproductive system, with the exception of like a few bonus features that we'll go over later. There's like an extra gland that I'll reference. And then for females, the female reproductive system is the female reproductive system. The omega male reproductive system, instead of like testicles and like semen creating vestibules, there are ovaries and a cloacal flap. I know we talked about the cloaca. If you're interested,
do they have,
Google
I'm assuming,
cloaca.
a uterus to carry the baby? Okay.
That is correct. Their uterus is sandwiched between their bladder and some other stuff.
Okay.
That is the physical stuff. As it relates to, in the Omegaverse, different genders can have children naturally. Yeah. So, I'm not going to throw up. Okay, so there is Omegaverse specific vocabulary, including heat, rut. Heat is exactly what it sounds like when you think of how animals go into heat, or they have a cycle.
Okay.
Rut is the reaction to the heat. So there's pheromones and there's libido and all that stuff kind of gets brought up during a heat. But what the heat does for the omega is especially important for male omegas because it allows them to have intercourse without any preparation.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. They're just ready to go.
Yeah, so a lubricant is secreted, and they are HOTTOGO.
I don't think she intended that song to be used in such a way. But you're right. They are hot to go.
Yeah, that secreted substance is called a slick.
I don't like that. Continue.
This is what I mean. I was like, I'm not gonna throw up, I swear. And omegas and betas can both create this substance. I will add that heats, when an omega goes into heat, typically in an Omegaverse, it's very detectable by alphas, and it makes alphas act in such a way, like, they can't control themselves. But at the same time, it's also hard for the omegas. That being said, a lot of times in Omegaverse, there is a suppressant that helps them suppress the pheromones so that they can operate in a normal life. Otherwise, they pretty much have to remove themselves from society whenever they're in a heat.
Yes.
So I learned something about the animal kingdom when I was doing research for this. And I also learned more about the Omegaverse because I hadn't come across this niche corner of the Omegaverse, which is with a heat, like with ferrets, can also kill an omega. So if an omega goes into heat and the heat is not satisfied, it can kill them. That is also true for female ferrets.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
does that, I don't know if you know this, but if a female ferret is fixed, is that still an issue?
No, they don't go into, they don't have cycles once they're fixed. So that's why it is very important if you own a ferret to get them spayed and neutered, because if you have a female ferret and she goes into a heat or a cycle, whatever you want to call it, she can die.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild? I had no idea.
Oh my gosh.
So
the
basically,
animal kingdom's insane.
Right. So the heats become very unbearable for the omegas. And I also, a little birdie told me too, that sometimes the omegas, when they're mated, that's something I'll get into in a minute, will create little nests out of the clothing of their alphas to sustain them when they go into heat when their mate isn't around. It is still very unbearable and very painful for them, but it's kind of like, it kind of gets them, like, it's called a nest. They put a little nest out of the clothing and they just kind of cuddle up in it and try to survive. So
I make a nest when I'm sick, but that's a completely different concept.
Yeah, you don't make a nest in your husband's clothing.
No, I don't. Can't say. I do wear one of his old hoodies when I'm sick, but that's the closest it gets.
It's pretty close.
Pretty close. Oh, I just had a realization of my life. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so we talked about suppressants. Those are pretty self-explanatory. We talked about ruts. It's kind of that... I'll say, I'm reading notes from someone else because, and the person who wrote a lot of what I'm describing also had a hard time writing it out because it's so, I don't want to say cringe. It is uncomfortable to hear it explained.
I want to say graphic, but at the same time I don't.
Yeah.
This is not a discussion that I would have outside of this podcast.
Correct. So, especially with this next one, we're rut, which is the alpha, what happens to the alpha. There's a lot of aggression, but basically they have an uncontrollable urge to impregnate others.
Okay.
But I'll say, whenever I've seen this portrayed in Omegaverse media, I don't see it as an uncontrollable urge to impregnate. I see it as an uncontrollable urge to, we'll say, be intimate, and then also potentially to claim someone as their mate.
Yeah.
So, in the next piece that I'm going to get into is the mating and the bonds, right? So, mating is exactly what it sounds like, but in the Omegaverse, it's slightly more than that. A mate is what you'd call a spouse or a fiancé, and finding a mate is finding someone who wishes to create a bond, and it is an unbreakable bond. So, once you decide to have someone as your mate or to be bonded with someone, that's it.
So if one of the couple dies, does the other die?
So
is that typical of the scenario?
So I've not seen this, but from my understanding, great question, by the way, of this media and of ferret anatomy and stuff is, so back to ferrets, if it works if the Omegaverse works how the ferretverse works, if the Omega is mated to an alpha, and the alpha is not near, and the Omega goes into heat, they'll die. I think that in ferret world, if they don't find another mate, they die. If in the Omegaverse, I don't know if the bond is broken when the alpha dies, but I imagine in some Omegaverses it could not break, meaning that if that alpha dies, then the Omega will die shortly after, because once you're mated, your heat cannot be satisfied by anyone other than your mate.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that would suck. Yeah, you probably would die.
That's what I mean. So I would hope that the bond would be broken. However, I don't know.
I guess it depends on the author.
Yeah, so maybe I only have a master's in Omegaverse and not a PhD like I thought.
It's okay. You're working on it.
I am. I'm working hard. So, yeah, the mating bonds, it varies between Omegaverse, like how the bond happens. A lot of times, though, it's typically biting in the neck area. Sometimes that's where some pheromones will come from, or there's a sac there. When you bite it, the blood comes out. It's like a whole, there's like the physical aspect of being mated. It's not just an emotional, like, yes, we are agreeing to be mates. So.
Did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely getting a middle school education here.
You can actually accidentally bond with someone during a heat.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you're like, have an intimate time, Alpha Omega, Omega's in heat, Alpha does a little chompy chomp, it's too chompy. Oops, mated.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I bet that gets messy.
Yes. And so with the heat of the Omega as well, it's kind of that like, I don't want to oversimplify it, but they're super turned on and they're like really trying to get at it. But it's one of those things where it's like they cannot handle their own business. It will not satisfy the heat.
Yeah.
And they will be physically ill if they're not on suppressants or whatever. So, you know what? I missed a crucial detail here, I think. But I think there was a heavy implication. But basically, alpha, betas, omegas are like a food chain status where omegas, there's not a lot of them, but they're kind of bottom of the food chain or bottom of the pyramid. Alphas, there's also not a lot of them, but there's more alphas than there are omegas. But they're top of the food chain. So they're usually physically larger, stronger. They're often in Omegaverse people who run companies. Some companies won't even hire Omegas to work in them because of the whole pheromone situation. And then there's betas, which is most of the population. Just standard folks. They can also react to an Omega's pheromones, but it's controllable, where sometimes alphas can't control when there is a strong pheromone being released near them.
There is a novel that just came out recently that has like aspects of Omegaverse in it, but I don't want to say this word because I don't want to throw up.
Say it. Say it.
There's nodding in this book, yeah. And if you want to know what that is, go look it up on your own.
So when I talked earlier about the male Omega anatomy, I talked about a gland that is present in the Omegaverse that is not present in our human reality, and it relates to nodding. If you are familiar with how dogs are able to mate, and certain creatures in the animal kingdom, they also experience the word that T just said, nodding.
Yeah, so there's like this mainstream novel that apparently has that in it. I know, I just tried to look it up, but like when I typed in mainstream Omegaverse novel, I got like what you would expect. Not that specific book, but it was like recommendations for Omegaverse novels, and I was like, no, I know what this book looks like, and it's not that.
Yeah, so nodding was the last piece, which I had only encountered recently. So all of the vocab we're using may or may not be present in any sort of Omegaverse media that you consume. It does vary depending on the mangaka or whoever is authoring the media. But nodding, basically, when a mommy and a daddy, or an Omega and an Alpha, love each other very much, and they want to have a baby, they do lots of smooching, and they get intimate, and then they get stuck like that for a little while.
They tie a sailor knot, and they get on their boat, and that's... Yep. Yep. Anyway, what's our next topic of discussion? I'm gonna file this away in the we're not gonna think about it again category. Just gonna
So,
dig through my brain, make a new spot, and put it right in.
filed away. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, I wanted to take a step back from more niche media vocab and go high level, because we talked about a lot of Japanese vocab as it relates to animes and mangas, but I also wanted to touch on Korean and Chinese media as well, because we've already had on the podcast Mim, who talked through some different BLs, but most of the BLs she talked about were manhwas, which are Korean. So that's Manhwa. It is a derivative of the Japanese word manga, similar to the Chinese word manhua, which is Manhua versus Manhwa. So the Chinese and the Korean word are very similar. So they're all...
And I am less familiar with the Chinese manhwa.
Well, great news for you as well as our listeners. 3 episodes from now, or 2 episodes from now, we're actually going to have a guest come in and talk about their favorite Chinese manga, aka manhwas.
Perfect.
So we're going to learn so much together again.
Oh, good. I'm getting an elementary level education right now, and then when they come on, I'll be at middle school. I'll just be in that mid-level. I'm getting there.
Are you smarter than a 5th grader?
No.
I'm honestly not. I thought about it the other day, and I was like, I don't know anything. I can't remember shit about dick.
Oh, well, then we need to scroll back up and talk about Omegaverse again.
Never again. If anyone watches this podcast, then you know me. No, you don't.
No, you don't. We've never met.
Back to media. So you wanted your elementary education in the different types of comics, we'll call it, right? Because in the U.S., we call them comics.
Yeah.
Where, you know, in the Asian countries, it's
graphic
manga.
novels.
Graphic novels, yeah. So there's a difference, not just in the name, but in the style as well. So when we look at manga, a lot of times it's bolder lines, exaggerated features. I was reading something that said that when you see manga or anime characters, their faces are modeled after cats and not humans.
I saw that.
Yep. So sometimes when you look at the stories for mangas, they're maybe supernatural. They could be really serious, complex themes. They're all over the place. And they're popular with a lot of different types of readers of different ages and genders. And I think I said it earlier, but I want to repeat again. It's right to left, top to bottom when you read. Now, comparing that to Korean manhwas, they're going to be more realistic and detailed. So they're not going to be cat faces. They're going to be look like an actual drawing of a human or whatever, is being drawn. Very more similar to a Western style comic or graphic novel like we talked about. And where in mangas there's a lot of supernatural, fantastical, superheroes fighting, whatever, manhwas tend to focus more on relationships, drama, social issues. There may be fantastical elements, like you might have a princess who has magic powers or something like that, but at the root of it, it's going to be she's got a mystery. She's trying to, fix her life. It might be an isekai, like she may have died and come back to life or something like that. Then, again, those are also popular with all age groups and genders, but there are more mature themes to it. And those are actually read left to right. Or, if you're reading on webtoons, top to bottom, which is where I read most of my manhwa. Though I will say that there's a lot of publishers now that are going in and printing manhwas that were previously published as webtoons. So Webtoon themselves are actually publishing things. Yen Press has a newer division called Ize Press, and they're publishing a lot of manhwa. The other nice thing about manhwa, as you're getting into the different media forms, is sometimes, maybe more often than not, manhwas are also in color, where mangas are typically black and white. So I think mangas are super popular, but manhwas are coming up. People are definitely getting more interested in them, and I think the color aspect has a lot to do with it. I won't say very different, but stylistically pretty different. Then when you look at manhwas in as a Chinese media. I know it's a similar pronunciation to the Korean form, but they're using bright colors, intricate designs. So where the Korean forms were realistic, these are super like more detailed, more colors. But they're going to focus more on historical fiction. There's going to be a lot of martial arts. There's going to be more romance, comedy, drama. But I've seen a lot of the Chinese media focused around a plot line in a specific time in history. And those are popular with, all ages and genders in China. And then they're actually growing in popularity too in other parts of the world. And like I said, we're going to have someone come on and talk through some of that stuff in a few episodes. And I'm really excited about it because I've been meaning to broaden my own world. And like I said, I've started reading more manhwas, but I definitely want to get into the Chinese media as well. And those are read right to left, top to bottom, same as mangas.
Okay. That's easy.
So super high level. So those are all the different media forms. I want to also arm our listeners with some more typical question response style information. So we talked about what type of anime do you like? What type of manga do you like? And you can answer those questions now. The next question you're going to get is dub or sub. The age-old question. Tia?
So I tend to gravitate towards subs, but I have exceptions that I will listen to specifically for the dub. Mostly because that was like Fruits Basket and Full Metal Alchemist. Those two I will listen to the dub because that's what I listened to growing up, and I know those voices, I know those characters. If it's something that like I want to be doing something else at the same time, I'll put a dub on. Yeah. But I definitely tend to gravitate towards the sub. And I'm not one of those people who's like, you have to listen to the sub. It's the right way. Like, whatever works for you, works for you.
Love what you love. Dub what you dub.
Love what you love. And no, we're not going to say what I was about to. We're going to pump them brakes. Choo-choo. Yeah.
I set you up. You almost took the bait. It's fine. So
I know. My brain, the car won't turn over now. But yeah. I'm not going to make fun of you for whatever you watch, because I watch both.
Yeah, so when we say dub or sub, we mean, is it with subtitles, or is it re-recorded in your native language as opposed to the original recorded language for the media?
So the way that I remember what means what, because like my brain just sometimes it's going too fast. If I say subtitle in my head, that makes sense. Dub title doesn't make sense.
So when we talk about dub or sub, basically we said that sub means that it's still in Japanese, but we're watching it with subtitles. Maybe not Japanese, but maybe the original language it was recorded in with subtitles for your native language. And dub is it's dubbed over with whatever your preferred language is instead of Japanese or the original language. So Tia, like your subtitle versus dub title. It's cute.
Thanks.
This is something that I struggled with a lot when I first started watching anime, and I think it's because even when I watch something dubbed, I still have subtitles on, and so I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So even if it's in English, I'm still gonna have the subtitles on girly.
See, I'm not. I can put them on. I don't utilize them frequently.
Yeah.
But I can just straight up watch it either way, and I'm fine.
I got that inattentive ADHD. If I'm not having to read while also listening, I'm not going to pay attention as easily. And if it is in English, but my subtitles aren't on, so like if I'm watching something even in English, it doesn't even have to be a dub. It can just be originally recorded in English, I'm watching it in English, I'm still going to have the subtitles on because I can't hear without my subtitles.
If I'm watching something in English, my native language, and I'm playing on my phone, I'm fine. I can still process what's happening on the TV. I might miss a visual thing, but I can auditory process what's happening.
Oh, brag.
Yeah. Humble brag.
That's sub or dub. So, love what you love, dub what you dub.
And we're going to end it there. Anyway, we have lots of other words that, not a lot, we got a couple other words that you might run into in your manga, manhwa, anime. Is there a term for Korean anime that isn't anime?
Probably.
We'll find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. Anyway,
Next time.
Here are some other words that you might run into, such as senpai. And a senpai is your upperclassman. So if you are a freshman in high school, anybody that is above you grade-wise is your senpai.
Yes. And I feel like senpai is used also in an endearing way.
Yes.
So it's like an upperclassman who you may look to for guidance on stuff.
Yeah, it's also like, say I was learning how to, I don't know, crochet came to mind first. Say I'm learning how to crochet.
Mm-hmm.
I could be the same age as or older than someone, but if their skill set is better than mine, they could be my crochet senpai.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So earlier in this episode, I was your Omegaverse senpai, even though you are older than me.
Yes, exactly.
We're bringing back the vocab so that the listeners really engage with it and really absorb the knowledge. Yeah, we're trying to make it applicable.
If you stuck around after the Omegaverse, you're getting an additional
if you're still here
today. Thank you.
And then
we also have Kohai.
Yes. So Kohai is an underclassman. So where senpai was upperclassman, Kohai is underclassman. So if you have a senpai, your senpai has a Kohai. I have in the notes, the Kohais typically want to be noticed by their senpais.
Notice me, senpai. Yeah, so in my crochet analogy, again, I would be the Kohai to the crochet senpai.
So T was an Omegaverse Kohai.
Oh, like any of this. So anyway, moving on. Oni-chan.
Yeah, so Oni means big brother. And then we have One, which is big sister, and so they're kind of a prefix, and then the suffix that would be chan or san or whatever. So that's it's exactly the literal translation. So Oni-chan will be like your big brother, and it's kind of an endearing word when you add like chan or san or whatever to the end of it.
Yeah, that's like when you add Chan also is typically, I don't want to say typically, but a lot of times is used for a cuter or younger kind of character, like Momiji in Fruits Basket.
Yeah.
I could see people referring to Momiji as Momiji-chan.
Yeah, where San is like more of a Mr. Miss. It's a little more formal, maybe someone you're not as close to. So where like Chan is going to be more cutesy, San is going to be more formal.
Yeah, and that's like people you're not close to, like somebody that you might be in class with or you might work with.
Yeah.
But you're not like buddies, but you know of them, kind of thing.
Yes.
It's a respectful way to refer to that person.
Right, and another suffix. So we talked about Chan and San as suffixes. Kun is another suffix that you might come across frequently. Those are going to be like your male, your guy friends, your buddies.
Yeah, and you're like on equal playing field.
Yeah.
You're not the kohai, you're not the senpai, you're equal to one another in that sense.
Right. So those kind of cover the most common prefix suffixes that are used in Japanese media. Along the lines of senpai and kohai, there's also sensei, which is going to be like your literal teacher or professor.
Yeah.
Someone whose like job essentially is to like be teaching you something.
And then we have something that's a little outside of the typical sphere of those vocabulary words. It falls within the structure of our complete discussion tonight, but this isn't like you're going to open every manga and you're going to see this word. This is actually a slang word that you might already be familiar with, a simp.
Yes, so if you've watched our other episodes, we probably throw this word around quite frequently, but it can be used as, I use it interchangeably for like, I'm simping for this character, or that character is my simp, and that's probably incorrect, but I don't care. So when we talk about doing a simp roast, like a roast of someone's simps, so characters that you simp for, characters that you like way too much, you're very passionate about, and simp, like you said, it's slang, and it's slang for maybe, I want to say sympathy, like sympathize, you have like a lot of feelings for. So it's a very derived word, and it is slang, but we use it pretty frequently. So like you said, you won't see it much written in media, but it is in the otaku community used quite frequently.
Good job using our vocabulary in a sentence.
Thank you so much. Notice me, senpai.
Gold star. Double stars. Yeah, and like with a simp, it could be somebody that you are attracted to in some way, but it could also be someone that you think is like super cool and you kind of want to emulate in a way.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I'll add, there's a vocabulary word I didn't include in here that I also want to include, and it piggybacks off of the word simp, and it is ship.
Oh, yeah, that we should have included that. Why didn't we? The ship has sailed.
Ship is like a relationship. It's slang for relationship. It's when you want people to be together. You want them to be in a relationship. You ship them. So in one of our episodes, we talked about our simps, but how we felt guilty simping for them because we shipped them with other characters. And a lot of times... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say there's canon ships.
Yes.
Where you, like, Kyo and Toru, canon. That happens for real in Fruits Basket. There are also fan ships where people would put Yuki and Toru together. And when someone says a ship has sailed, I feel like that has a double meaning sometimes, too. Like, that means that the relationship was successful and it happened. Or it can mean, like, oh, that ship sailed. Yeah. It didn't go through.
Right. And you brought up another good vocabulary word that I would like to bring attention to, and that is canon.
Yes. And it's not the one on the side of a ship that I thought of when I was a little kid, and I heard that for the first time.
Yeah, so if a ship is canon, it is not a ship, a literal ship with a literal cannon on it. It is a relationship that is true to the original media's intent. So we talked before about how in Ouran High School Host Club, the main character in the media ends up with a particular character, Tamaki. However, the mangaka's original intent for the canon ship was Haruhi and Mori Senpai. And I stand this so hard. It is my number one ship because I'm mad because it should have been canon for the media. It was canon for the mangaka. I'm mad about it. So that was a lot of vocabulary words that I just threw out.
Yeah, you know, I it's one of those things where we talk about this frequently and we use it frequently, but now that we're sitting here and we're discussing these words, I was like, it was like a vocabulary word in my brain. I was like, oh, she said that one, she said that one, she said that one, she said that one. You get 5 gold stars, girl.
Yay! So hopefully after our intense vocabulary lesson, you were able to understand the last few sentences that I said about Ouran High School Host Club, and if you did, amazing job, 5 stars for you too.
Yeah, and time to give you guys homework. If you are ready to give it a shot, look up a new anime, look up a new manga. You can rent them from your local library. We simp the local library here on this podcast. And pick out a new book. You might see some of the vocabulary in there. You might pick it up while you're watching an anime. You could now probably have a better discussion with another otaku and be able to elaborate your conversations better.
And actually, if you are not sure where to start your journey, or maybe you're early on in your journey, or even later on in your journey, we actually have partnered with another podcast called Over Manga Cast. And I'll play their promo, but what they do is they read chapters of mangas, and then on their podcast they talk about them. But they talk about a huge myriad, a huge range of different types of mangas. And they say in their podcast what specific chapters they're going to talk about. And they talk about some things that we've talked about. They've read The Summer Hikaru Died. They go over My Hero. So if there is media that you're already consuming, you can listen in and hear their thoughts on it. Or if you're not sure about a particular media, you can listen to them talk about it and then decide if it's the type of media that you want to consume too. Go ahead and give their podcast a listen.
I was drop in the comments if you learned anything new today. It could be a new term that you picked up. It could be about a new form of media that you weren't aware of, like the Chinese manhwa. Mm-hmm. It could be about Omegaverse.
Please don't let it be about Omegaverse. Please do not comment.
Hey, love what you love. That's what we say on our channel.
Love what you
allowed
love,
to love
dub
it,
what you dub.
and don't say the other one. This has been Girls, Gays, and Animes, and we love you regardless of what you love. Thank you and good night.
We out.
Do you like your manga discussion with analysis?
That's why it's really important that it's not just coincidence that Bomb is following her. Rachel wants Bomb to stay obsessed with her.
Details. Her name is a phonetic spelling of Coca-Cola.
We need an over manga cast counter for the number of times I point out numbers don't make sense in the manga.
Context.
We're not able to see it completely objectively because we have a slant on it. We are more familiar with the Western gods, heroes.
And a bit of simping.
She has this, like, schoolgirl crush blush while she's trailing her finger along the blade of the steak knife.
My kind of woman.
I was watching Bishi guys literally overanalyze and fight each other. It was great.
Then try the Over Manga Cast. Every week, Jay, Matt, Jake, and Sam, that's me, dive in to discuss an arc in a different manga, or manhwa, or webcomic.
I don't even know what this podcast is anymore.
That time we woke up in a podcast and had to explain manga. Our heated adventures over-analyzing manga that we find interesting. Also called the Over Manga Cast. New episode every Thursday on your favorite podcasting platforms, on Facebook and Twitter as @OverMangaCast.